All right, so in the previous lesson, we had, this is lesson 2, we had talked about just basically the basics of working with ISA and dropping objects, scaling objects, moving them around, orienting your tiles. It really is like putting together a model train set within ISA. So then what we're going to work on this time is talking about where we save files. So typically, what I like to do when I have a new person who's just learning ISA is I like to assign homework. I like to have people contribute to our tile library, our what we call our filler tiles. So you can see if you go down here to our tile library, you'll see that we've got some tabs, and these are all um, tiles that are pre-populated with objects. So for instance, if I were to drop one of these in, rather than just being an empty tile devoid of features, you can see here that it's got roadway elements already in it. And I'm just going to put this at the origin. And I'm going to freeze it so I can't move it by accident. And the one thing you'll notice about filler tiles is they've already got stuff. So it makes putting together, if there's nothing special that you need about a tile, um, it you just need some filler space between tiles, then uh, these are very handy to use. Now, but the only drawback of using filler tiles is because they're published objects, you can't select any of these houses and move them around. And why is that? You can see down here we don't have any children. It's all one big object. Um, so this is a good place to talk about the difference between working models and published models. So a working model is basically, like we did last time, is an unpublished database with all your elements in it. A published model is one where the ISA takes all of the elements and basically publishes them into one uh, uh, database, and then also takes incorporates roadway information that the simulator then uses to handle autonomous traffic. For instance, here it'll put in information about the center of the lane. It'll take all your JavaScript and information about your sensors and your trigger points and incorporates that into your database. When you save a database, your working models, you just hit save. If you're publishing, you would use this. So let me delete this, and I'll show you quickly where we save things. So I'm going to put that down. Open up a folder. So all of our working models go in our folder called Databases UMass. And you can see here that we have a bunch of project folders that, and we would like you to use, whenever possible, the name of the project rather than your first name as the folder name. Now you can see not everybody has done that, but it just makes it a lot easier when somebody wants to go back after you've left and find your work. If they know it's for the cell phone study, then they can just go there. And you open these up, and these are all. Let me pick one here. Merle 2. These are all working models. I can open this up and move objects around as necessary. But you'll also notice that we've got a folder here called HPL Tile Library. That's where all of the working models for our filler tiles are. So if I open these up, I could actually go in and change the location of houses and trees and so on. these are not published files. So the simulator cannot use these files to run a simulation. And we publish our databases in one of two locations. If it's a database that was built for an experiment, we would publish them to TileWorld. Database is TileWorld, and you can see that there's project folders here. So if I went into MHD crosswalks, these are published files that have, unfortunately, the .wrl is still the same for both. So you can't tell just by looking at the file name which is published and which isn't. But so that's why we have separate locations. So we know that everything in TileWorld is a published model, and so these are the published models for the MHD crosswalk study. Again, the working files are in UMass under project folder names, and the published versions of those are under TileWorld with the same folder names. So there's a MHD crosswalk folder in both TileWorld and UMass, one that has the published, one that has the working models. Now however, for the tile library, if we wanted to make a model that we wanted to be able to attach to our library down here, we've got to save it. We've got to publish it somewhere else. And where you publish these is in, and this is a long one, it's under Program Files, Parallel Graphics, ISA, Release Objects. And so under Release Objects, all of these folders correspond to one of these tabs down here. So you can see here that there's a tab named Filler Tiles. Well, there's a folder here called Filler Tiles. There's actually two of them. So we have here, we don't typically like to add any new objects to any of these folders, but we do add filler tiles. So here under Filler Tiles, you can see here are the published versions of those working models in the HPL tile library. So we use kind of verbose names for them. We try to use descriptive titles for the filler tiles for good reason. You'll notice down here, if I was going to go to the library for two-lane roadways, filler tiles, that the thumbnails here, it's kind of hard to see what the features are. So when you mouse over those, you can see the file name pops up. So having a kind of a descriptive name is useful. So we use names like filler tile, two-lane, four-way, stop controlled, suburban, houses. So what we're going to do is, and what your assignment is going to be, is to contribute to our filler tile library. And so we're going to start building we're going to build one right now. So what we're going to start off, we're going to build, since we don't have a lot of two-lane roads in our two-lane tab, we're going to build a two-lane roadway. So let's go in, and we're going to drop in. We don't have a rotary. Let's make a rotary filler tile. So we always start with an empty tile. Very important that you center it on the origin, and that it has a scale of 1 to 1. Now, typically people don't deliberately save their tiles without the origin zeroed out and the scale, but sometimes people accidentally change the number and not realize it. And so what ends up happening is that when you publish it, the origin is no longer centered, and it makes it a lot harder to position the filler tile later on. So when you position it, you're making a filler tile. Go ahead and freeze your tile so you can't accidentally move it or rescale it. And now we're going to start populating this with things. So the purpose of a filler tile is basically just to give you a pre-populated tile. So let's make this, I don't know, let's make this a rural setting. So we're going to maybe let's make maybe some convenience stores here. So let's on this quadrant. So what I'll do is I'll populate one quadrant and then I'll pause the video and then populate all the other ones, so you don't have to watch me doing that. But so let's go into structures, urban, and we might try to find a little corner store. So here's down here we have doctor's office. Perfect. Now you'll notice that buildings, if you rotate this, maybe I need to rotate that 180 degrees. They're kind of floating above the ground. Here the door is actually above the ground. I do like to, just to save polygons, I like to rescale my buildings up to 1.5. Makes them a little bit bigger, and your drivers don't seem to notice. But you need to sink your buildings into the ground. And I think they do that because some of the tiles have hills, and if you have a building on the side of a hill, that makes it so you can have part of the building above ground, and it doesn't look like your house is kind of floating. So you need to, in most cases, you need to sink your buildings. Maybe with this one, let's try maybe a 45-degree angle, or negative 45. There we go, since this is a rotary. And we'll put in a under objects pavement, or all of your parking lot features. So here we've got a parking lot tile, and we'll change that to negative 45-degree rotation, and we'll put in a parking lot. Now you can copy and paste objects, but you'll notice that they start off untextured. You've got to actually go in and click on properties to make the texture appear. And you can see that when you copy and paste, it places the object, becomes a parent of whatever was the original object. So if I keep pasting here, it keeps making children. Where did it go? Oh, I can actually, let me copy and paste those two. And now I've got, there we go. Now I might be, yeah, I'm impinging them on my roadway. So that's maybe that wasn't the best idea. So let's choose a different parking lot feature. Now you can retexture these. Go in and choose a texture that doesn't have a parking lot or the parking lines associated with it. And now let's rescale this to where it takes up some space. 10 was too big, so let's do 5. Okay. Still too big. Maybe 3. 3 and 3. Yeah, that's better. So put that there. And you can see now we've got our parking lot. We want these, and I can unchild those. Make sure that stays up there. Actually, let's put all of those in kind of the root of the tile. And I want Okay, I want this one to float above the other one slightly, so I'm going to move that up. Because if you have two objects that are sharing the same plane, their textures start fighting. It's called Z buffering conflict. So you can actually move one of them up slightly, so that the that reduces gets rid of that conflict between the two. But now I've forgotten which one is which. All right, so that one is like 0.03. Now it shouldn't. Okay, fight. And maybe I'll move another one in here, retexture that one to be no parking lines, rotate it. It's not going to be perfect because it's going to have a, let's do positive 45. So there we go. That's not bad. The radius on that rotary is kind of messing us up a little bit. We can maybe add some trees. So add a tree maybe on either side of the maybe a couple trees over here. And then I can, back here, I can put a tree wall. Rotate it 180 degrees. And it looks like I'm going to scale it down because it's too big. So 0.7. And I can make them taller. Now you notice with tree walls, you've got one, they're great except for there's one problem. You've got this odd line, and I'm surprised how many of our driving participants comment on that, when that you've just kind of got this harsh chop off of your tree line. So what I like to do is I'll actually drop a tree on top of it. So here, take a tree, I'll scale it up slightly, and just drop it right there. And now it's no longer as objectionable to passersby. Okay, so I'm going to call that quadrant done. Now I'm going to pause the video, and we're going to go ahead and actually want you guys do it. So I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to let my folks here that are with me do the rest of it. So we're going to pause. Okay, so we've now, it's about half an hour or so later. We, Cole and Keith have populated this for us with some other stuff. And so we started off here with mine, which is the house or doctor's office. And then they put in a home here, another home here, and then we've got a little silo over there. So, and then we also put in some stuff in the center. So now we're going to save this. Now filler tiles get saved in UMass, databases UMass, HPL tile library. And we're going to give this a descriptive name. Now we always start with filler tile. Then the next thing is just an indication of how many lanes, and then you go from there. So we might say here rotary rural homes, and we'll save it. Now that's the working model. And so if we ever need to make any changes to it, if we ever decided we wanted to make changes, we would have to open this file up, make the changes, and then republish it. Now we're going to publish it. So to publish it, you go up here, right next to the save icon is another icon. It looks like a stack of disks. Click on that. And for filler tiles, Again, that gets saved under Program Files, Parallel Graphics, ISA, Release Objects, and then you just pick the correct folder. And each folder corresponds to one tab. We're going to save this under Filler Tiles 2-lane, because that's where all of our 2 lanes go. We're going to use the same name. So we're going to save that. And as you can see, because we added stuff to it, it takes a while. It's not unusual for experiment databases to have to hit publish and you walk away and come back 20 minutes later and it's just finishing. So if we look under here, there's our new tile. So we've got filler tile 2-lane rotary rural homes.wrl, and you'll notice. So now what we can do is we can come over here, rescale this a little bit. If I were to grab this filler tile and drop it right here, oh, that's not good. Okay, we just lost our thing. Happily we saved it. Let's try that again. So that's unusual. I've not seen that before. So it just opened a new database, which is fine. We'll go and grab that filler tile again. Hopefully there's not a problem with it. Okay, there we go. I think one of the reasons why it maybe took a while is because that rotary itself it's got a lot of polygons in it. So that might be why it's taking a little longer. But if we center it, and then zoom out, and then fly up so we can look around, point the nose of our camera down, and then walk. First freeze it. Now you can see it's the same thing, except now, because it's a published, what we're looking at is the published version of this, we can't select anything. And overall, the reason why we use the published tiles in some of our database builds is because having a database with this tile in its published format, it consumes less memory on the disk and also active memory in the computer than if you were to build the same tile and publish it with each of these separately in your big database for your experiment. So so that's where we publish our filler tiles. So if you're a new student watching this video, what I would like you to do is contribute at least 3 filler tiles to the to the library. So those could be 2-lane, they could be 4-lane, which is in the filler tiles. Ignore this one. This is for a study that was done with Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and so these are all specific to them and wouldn't be as useful to you. And then here's filler tile buildings. These are just buildings only, without the underlying tile. And then there's some highway filler tiles as well for interstates that one of the graduate students was working on. So you could contribute filler tiles to any of those two, either the highway one, the 2-lane one, or the 4-lane, which is not labeled as 4-lane. And that would be fine. So, any questions? Nope. All right. Very good. So I'll stop that.